Good evening. My name is James Hamby, and the topic that I'll be discussing is the topic of eugenics and whether it is moral or needed. What is eugenics? Eugenics was a term that was founded by Francis Galton in 1883, and it was a set of beliefs or practices that aim to improve the genetic quality of the human race or the human population. And the way that it did this was it excluded certain genetic makeups or traits out of an individual, uh, of those that have less inferior groups of individuals. Why was it used? Well, it was used as a method to improve the genetic composition of the human race, or as they call it, the breed of man. It was also used to create a better overall person from different genetics. What was the belief behind it? It was believed that if you take a certain trait from different individuals, then you can create, I guess, the perfect, the perfect human being, or possibly the perfect community, if you did this to enough human beings. And the study started to get funded by U.S. leaders and private citizens, and sometimes even corporations. In 1911, there was a eugenics records office that was established in New York. They studied the different classes of families, and they sort of determined that the bad genetics came from the poorer families. But they didn't take into account that the lack of resources that the poor families had. What was the plan? The plan was the sterilization of the unfit, or what they call the less desirable. And that could be any kind of traits that they had, whether it be, something that took over their life or not. These were funded through government programs, and mostly the victims did not have a choice in the matter. Here's a couple numbers that'll bring it out to light. Over half of the states, 33 to be exact, had sterilization programs. And over the years, there was an estimated 65,000 that was sterilized. Here in North Carolina alone, there were 7,600 between the years of 1929 and 1974. Who were the victims of these sterilizations? Usually it fell between the mentally ill, those that favored alcoholism, maybe they were blind or deaf, maybe they were of criminal descent, and it didn't matter why you were committing a crime. It could have been that you were trying to provide for your family, or this could be your way of living. It didn't matter. And last but not least, the promiscuity of the females. Didn't matter why they were considered to be promiscuous. It could have been from a rape or a position of incest. They didn't take an account of these matters. They saw a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old girl that was pregnant having a child, and they considered this person to be promiscuous, and so they sterilized them. And these days, the North Carolina legislature is actually still considering and paying those that are still living a good lump of sum. And from my research, it says that it might be upwards of $50,000 for those victims that are still alive today. Is it still done? Or should it still be done? Is it still done? Not to the extent that it was back then. It kind of faded out in the 1970s due to the lack of interest in the programs. Now, today, it is known as the human genetic engineering programs. Now, unlike back then, the parents actually have a say in it. And due to the advances in technology, you can actually create a better human being, if you would say. There are some women that can go out, they don't have a husband, they don't plan on having a husband, and they can go to a donor bank, a sperm donor bank, and find the perfect, as you could say, genetic makeup in their sperm and make their perfect baby. Now these programs, they're promoted as birth control programs and family planning programs. The last forced sterilization was performed in 1981. Not here in North Carolina, but it was performed in 1981. Should it be done? My belief, to a certain extent, it should be done. If a child or if a parent can alter what the child will come out as, maybe it's got Down syndrome, maybe it's got cystic fibrosis. If you can go in and you can change that, you could take that gene out, I think it'll be a better life for everybody. So I think that it should be done to a certain extent. And also, when a child might be suffering or might come out as suffering, some might say it is playing God, but it's technology, and it's the technology that we have, and it can benefit us. So, in my opinion, yes, it should be done, but very carefully. These are the sources that I use to get my information for this PowerPoint. If you have any questions about this, any questions for me, feel free to contact me. Thank you for your time, your patience, and thank you for listening.